Mr. Zayan, a successful and well-known millionaire, had a busy day at work. He was dressed in a black suit, wearing an expensive watch, and driving his luxury car through a part of the city he didn't know very well. He was on his way to an important business dinner, but as he drove through a narrow and quiet street, his car suddenly stopped. The engine made a strange sound and went silent. He frowned and checked his phone. No signal. He looked around. The area was dark and silent. Most shops were closed. The streetlights were blinking and trash lay scattered on the roadside. Zayan opened the car door and stepped out. He didn't like this place. Something felt wrong. But he had no choice. He needed help. As he walked slowly down the sidewalk, calling out, "Hello, is anyone here?" he suddenly heard quick footsteps behind him. Before he could turn, someone pulled a black cloth over his face. He struggled, but strong hands held him tight. One man pushed him, another tied his hands. He tried to shout, but they covered his mouth. Within seconds, he was dragged into an old, broken building nearby. The place smelled of dirt and old wood. Paint was peeling from the walls and broken glass was everywhere. The men were wearing masks. Their eyes were cold. One of them shouted, "Shut up! You're rich, right? Don't worry, your money will bring you back. Until then, stay quiet." They threw him into a small room and tied him to a chair. They left the room, locking the door from outside. Zayan's heart was racing. He tried to stay calm, but fear was rising inside him. Who are these people? What do they want? Will I make it out alive? The room was dark except for a small hole in the corner of the wall. It was silent. Zayan could hear the faint sound of the men laughing and talking outside. Suddenly, he heard something, else a small movement like someone crawling. Then a soft whisper came through the hole. "Don't worry, sir. I'll save you." Zayan turned his head quickly. A pair of small eyes looked through the hole. A young boy, maybe 10 or 11 years old, with dirty hair and a tired face, was crouched behind the wall. Zayan was confused. Who are you?" The boy whispered again. "You look like my father." Zayan's eyes widened. He couldn't believe what he just heard. The boy continued, "I saw them bring you here. I live near this building. I hide here sometimes to sleep. I heard them say they want money from you." Zayan asked, "Why are you helping me?" The boy looked down and said, "Because you look like my father. He left many years ago. I never saw him again. But your face, your eyes, they look like his." Zayan was silent. He didn't know what to say. The boy continued, "I can't let them hurt you. I will come back tonight. I will help you escape." Before Zayan could ask anything more, the boy crawled away silently. Zayan was left in the dark, tied up and confused. His mind was full of questions. Who was that boy? Was he really just a street kid? Why did he say Zayan looked like his father? Could it be true? Zayan closed his eyes and thought back to his past. Many years ago, before he became rich, he had a relationship. A woman he cared about deeply. They had a child together, but after a big fight, she left and disappeared. Zayan tried to find her, but failed. Could this boy be? "No," he whispered. "It's not possible." But his heart felt strange. As the night grew darker, Zayan sat alone in that cold room, tied to the chair, waiting to see if the boy would return, waiting to find out the truth. He didn't know what was more dangerous, the kidnappers outside or the truth hidden inside that little boy's eyes. Mr. Zayan sat in the dark, tied to the chair. Time felt slow. His expensive suit was dusty, and his face was tired. Every sound outside the room made him jump. He remembered the boy's words. "You look like my father. I'll save you." Zayan didn't know why, but those words gave him a small feeling of hope. Suddenly the door opened. One of the masked men came in with a bottle of water and threw it on the table. "No tricks," he said coldly. "Someone will call your family soon. If they pay, you'll live. If not, you know what happens." He laughed and walked out. Zayan stared at the water bottle, but his hands were tied tightly. He was thirsty and helpless. He had never felt so weak in his life. The door closed again. Darkness returned. Minutes passed. Then he heard it. A soft knock on the wall behind him. It was the boy again. Zayan whispered, "Is that you?" "Yes," came the reply. "I came back." Through the small hole, the boy passed a small, sharp piece of metal. "Use this, try to cut the rope," he said. Zayan started to rub the sharp edge against the rope on his wrist. It was hard, but he kept trying. While he worked, he spoke to the boy. "What's your name?" Zayan asked. "Samir," the boy replied. "I live on the streets." "Do you have no family?" "No, my mother died when I was small. My father, he left. Or maybe he lost me. I don't know. I've been alone for many years." Zayan felt a pain in his chest. He looked at the boy through the hole. The child looked tired, his face dirty, his eyes full of sadness. "But how do you live here?" Zayan asked. "I hide in this building sometimes. The men don't know I'm here. There's a broken window in the back where I come in. I eat from trash bins. Sometimes people give me food." Zayan couldn't believe what he was hearing. This boy was surviving in such a hard world, alone. He looked again at the photo the boy had shown him earlier. The man in the photo really did look like a younger version of Zayan. Could it be true? Zayan asked carefully, "Where did you get that photo?" "My mother gave it to me before she died. She told me, 'This is your father. He was a good man, but we got lost.' I've kept it with me all my life." Zayan stopped cutting for a moment. His hands were shaking now, not from fear but from emotion. He looked at the child again. Could this boy really be his son? Was it possible that the woman he loved so many years ago was this boy's mother? But before he could ask more, Samir spoke again. "You have to get out of here. I know a way. There is a hole in the back wall. You can escape through it when..." "They sleep," Zayan nodded, still lost in thought. Samir said, "I'll come back again at midnight, be ready. But if they catch us, they might hurt you. Or me." Zayan looked at him seriously. "I won't let them hurt you, Samir. You've already done more for me than anyone else. I promise I'll protect you." Samir smiled softly, then disappeared into the darkness again. Zayan sat there, the sharp piece still in his hand, cutting the rope slowly. His mind was racing. Was this boy truly his son? If yes, how could fate bring them together like this? In the middle of danger, outside the room. The kidnappers were laughing and drinking. They had no idea their prisoner was planning an escape. With the help of a street boy. The hours passed. Zayan worked quietly. His wrist was bleeding a little, but he didn't stop. He had to get free, and not just for himself, but for the boy. At last the rope became loose. He moved his hands and finally free. He didn't try to open the door yet. He waited, just like Samir said. He sat near the hole and whispered, "Samir, I'm ready." But no reply came. Was the boy okay? Did something happen? Zayan waited in silence. Then, finally, he heard a small footstep outside the window. Samir was back, and the real escape was about to begin. The night was dark and quiet, but inside the old building, danger was hiding in every corner. Mr. Zayan sat on the cold floor, his hands finally free. His wrists were sore, and a little blood had dried near the rope marks. But he didn't care. He was free. At least for now. He looked toward the small hole in the wall again. Samir had just returned a few minutes ago and whispered his final warning. "Be careful, sir. The men are awake. They drink and talk loudly, but they keep their guns close. If they see us, they won't let us go." Zayan nodded slowly. Samir added, "I'll open the back door. You follow me." But no noise. Not even a breath. Then he disappeared again. Zayan's heart was pounding. He stood up slowly, careful not to make a sound. He moved toward the door and placed his ear against it. The men were still talking and laughing. One of them said, "The boss said the money will come tomorrow. Then we let the rich man go." "Maybe." Another one laughed. "Or maybe we don't. Maybe we ask for more. He's worth millions." Zayan's hands clenched into fists. He couldn't wait until tomorrow. They might hurt him or worse. He waited, standing still in the dark room. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, he heard a soft tap on the window. 3 times. That was Samir's signal. Zayan slowly opened the door just a little. No sound. He looked out. The hallway was dark. One weak bulb flickered near the ceiling. He stepped out, heart beating fast. Footsteps. He froze. From the right side of the hallway, one of the masked men was walking toward him. Zayan quickly stepped back into the room and closed the door silently. The man passed by, yawning. Zayan waited. More seconds. He opened the door again and moved quickly in the other direction, as quiet as a shadow. At the end of the hallway, a small figure waved at him from behind a broken door. Samir. The boy's eyes were wide with fear, but his small hand signaled, "Come now." Zayan followed him into a narrow hidden staircase. It led down into the basement. The walls were wet, and the air was cold. Samir whispered, "This way. I come here when I need to hide. They never check this place." They walked through the basement carefully. Broken furniture and boxes were scattered everywhere. Suddenly a sound. A creaking door upstairs. Samir grabbed Zayan's hand. "Quick, hide here," he said, pointing to a large wooden cupboard. Both of them squeezed inside. Zayan's back hurt from crouching. Samir was holding his breath beside him. They heard footsteps coming down the stairs. One of the men had come to check the basement. His heavy boots thudded on the wooden floor. He was mumbling to himself. He walked past the cupboard and stopped. Zayan felt his heart in his throat. The man stood silently for a few seconds, then walked away. The door creaked again as he left the basement. Samir waited 5 more seconds, then whispered, "Let's go." They stepped out and moved toward the back of the building. There was an old metal door there. Samir pulled it slowly. It made a screeching sound, and both of them froze. No sound from above. They stepped outside. The air was fresh. The street was empty. Zayan could almost feel freedom. But then, a shout. "Hey, stop!" One of the kidnappers had seen them from the window. Zayan and Samir started running. Samir held Zayan's hand tightly and led him toward a small alley. "Follow me. I know where to hide." Zayan's heart was pounding. His expensive shoes were slipping on the wet ground, but he didn't stop. They ran through the narrow alley, turned a corner, then another. The sound of footsteps followed behind them. Suddenly, Samir pointed to a broken wall with a small hole. "In here!" They crawled inside, hiding behind some old metal sheets. Footsteps ran past the alley. The kidnappers didn't see them. Zayan sat down, breathing hard. Samir looked at him and smiled. "You're safe for now." Zayan looked at the boy. "You saved me again." Samir smiled. "You look like my dad. I don't want to lose you." Zayan's eyes filled with emotion. In the middle of the night, in a cold hiding place, the bond between a millionaire and a street boy grew stronger. But they were not truly safe yet. The men were still searching, and Zayan still had many questions. Was this brave child truly his lost son? The night was cold. Zayan and Samir hid inside a broken shed behind the old building. The place was dark, filled with dust and broken wood. But for now, they were safe. Zayan sat against the wall, breathing slowly. His expensive clothes were dirty, his face pale from fear and stress. Samir sat beside him, his small body shivering from the cold. "Are you okay?" Zayan asked softly. Samir nodded. "I've slept in worse places." Zayan looked at him. "You're a brave boy." Samir gave a small smile. "I had to be. The world doesn't care about kids like me." Zayan's heart felt heavy again. He still couldn't stop thinking about the photo Samir had shown him. The man in the picture looked like Zayan from 12 years ago. Same eyes, same smile. He looked at Samir carefully now. The boy had those same eyes. Brown, kind but strong too. "Samir," Zayan said gently, "can I ask something?" "Sure." "Do you remember where you were born?" Samir thought for a moment. "My mom said we lived in a small town outside. The city, she never told me the name. She said we left after my dad disappeared." Zayan's heart beat faster. "What was your mother's name?" Samir looked down. Ayla Khan. Zion felt like the air had left his lungs. Ayla. He hadn't heard that name in more than a decade. She was his college love. They were together for a short time, but their love was real. One day, after a fight, she left and never came back. Zion searched for her, but couldn't find her. He never knew she was pregnant. Could Samir be? Samir looked at him. You know her? Zion didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket. He had a wallet with an old photograph inside, a photo of Ayla and him from those college days. He pulled it out and showed it to Samir. The boy took the picture and stared at it. His eyes went wide. "That's my mom," he whispered. "That's her face when that's you." Zion nodded slowly. He couldn't believe it. The boy sitting in front of him, the one who had saved his life, was his son. Samir's hands began to shake. "So, you really are my father?" Zion swallowed hard. He touched the boy's shoulder gently. "I didn't know, Samir. I swear, if I knew, I would have searched every street to find you." Tears came into Samir's eyes. "All these years, I thought I had no one. I thought my dad left me." Zion pulled him into a hug. "No, son, I didn't leave you. I just never knew you were out there." For a long moment, they said nothing. Father and son, holding each other in a small, broken shed, finding each other again through pain and fate. After a few minutes, Samir wiped his eyes and said, "I kept something. My mom gave it to me before she died." He took out a small plastic bag hidden in his shirt. Inside was a folded letter, old, yellow, and torn at the edges. Samir handed it to Zion. Zion opened it carefully. The handwriting was familiar. It was Ayla's. "Zion, if you ever find this letter, know that I never stopped loving you. I tried to come back, but things were too hard. I had our child, a boy. I named him Samir. If life ever brings you together, please protect him. He deserves a father's love." Zion's hands trembled as he read the letter. He looked at Samir again. The boy was watching him quietly, his eyes filled with hope and fear. "I'm here now," Zion said, "and I'll never leave you again." Samir smiled for the first time. A real smile, one that lit up his face. But just then, they heard footsteps outside the shed. Voices. The kidnappers were searching again. Zion quickly pulled Samir close. "We need to go," he whispered. "We can't stay here." Samir nodded. "I know a safer place. A man I trust. He lives near the bus station. He helps boys like me." Zion stood up. "Lead the way." They stepped out into the night once more. This time not just as two strangers, but as father and son ready to fight for their safety and their future. But the danger wasn't over. The kidnappers were getting closer, and the final test was still to come. The streets were empty, but every shadow felt dangerous. "Mr. Zion," and Samir walked quickly through the narrow back lanes. Samir led the way, holding Zion's hand tightly. Even though he was just a boy, he moved like someone who had lived his whole life on the streets, fast, quiet, and careful. Behind them, voices echoed faintly. "They went this way. Find them. Don't let them escape." Zion's heart beat faster. He looked at his son. Yes, his son, and felt a mix of fear and love. This child had saved his life, risked everything, and now they were both in danger again. Samir whispered, "We're close. Just 2 more turns." Zion nodded. He trusted the boy completely now. They turned a corner and saw a small, broken-down house with a metal gate. Samir knocked 3 times on the gate in a special pattern. A light turned on inside. Moments later, the door opened slightly. A tall man with gray hair and a serious face peeked out. "Who's there?" Samir stepped forward. "Uncle Raymond, it's me. Please help us." The man's eyes widened when he saw the boy. "Samir, what happened? Why do you look like this?" Samir pointed to Zion. "They kidnapped him. I saved him. He's my father." Raymond looked shocked. He opened the door fully and quickly let them in. Then he closed the gate and locked it tight. "Come inside, both of you." They entered the small house. It was simple but clean. A single fan turned slowly on the ceiling. Rahman gave them water and a blanket. Zion sat on the floor, breathing heavily. Samir explained everything. How he found Zion, how he hid and helped him escape, and how he learned the truth. Rahman listened quietly. When Samir finished, Rahman looked at Zion and said, "You're lucky this boy found you. Most wouldn't take such a risk." Zion nodded. "He saved my life. He saved me and gave me something I never expected. A son." Rahman smiled slightly. "A strong boy, just like his mother." Zion's eyes softened. "You knew Ayla?" Rahman nodded. "She came here once, long ago. Told me about you. She was sad, Zion. She thought you had forgotten her." Zion shook his head. "Never. I searched for her, but she disappeared." Silence filled the room for a few seconds. Then suddenly, a loud bang on the gate. They all froze. "Open the door," someone shouted from outside. "We know they're in there." Rahman stood up quickly. "It's them. They followed you." Samir pulled on Zion's arm. "Come, Dad, there's a secret door in the back. Uncle Raymond used it during bad days." They ran toward the back of the house. Raymond opened a small door hidden behind an old shelf. "Go," he said. "This leads to a tunnel. It will take you near the railway station." Zion looked at him. "Come with us." Rahman shook his head. "I'll stay and stop them for a few minutes. You need time." Zion hesitated, but Rahman pushed them inside the dark tunnel. "Take care of him," he said to Zion. "You have your son now. Don't lose him again." The door closed behind them. The tunnel was cold and dark. Samir held Zion's hand tightly, guiding him. "We'll be safe," the boy whispered. "I promise. As they moved through the tunnel, Zion felt tears in his eyes. He had lost so much in his life, his love, his chance to be a father. But now he had one more chance. He wouldn't waste it. Samir was more than just a brave boy. He was a gift, The end of the tunnel, they saw light. They stepped out into the night air. The railway station was just ahead. People walked around. Trains made noise. It was a public place, safer than dark alleys. Zion turned to Samir. "From now on, you're coming home with me? No more streets, no more hiding." Samir looked up, eyes full of tears. "Really?" Zion smiled and held him close. "Really, you're my son, and I won't let anything happen to you." But deep down, he knew the danger wasn't over. The kidnappers wouldn't stop. They had lost their prize, and they wanted revenge. The railway station was busy. People rushed to catch trains, vendors shouted, and whistles echoed in the air. It felt like a different world, far away from the dark streets and danger they had just escaped. Zion and Samir stood near a bench, trying to look normal. Zion looked around carefully. He couldn't relax yet. "We need to call someone I trust," he said. He took out a small phone hidden in his inner coat pocket. Thankfully, the kidnappers hadn't taken it. It was an emergency phone, one only a few people knew about. He dialed a number. "Hello," came a voice. "Rehan, it's me, Zion," he whispered. "Sir, where are you? We've been looking for you everywhere." "I was kidnapped, but I escaped. I'm at the old railway station with someone important." "I'll come right away," Rehan said. "Stay hidden. Don't trust anyone." Zion ended the call and looked at Samir. "Help is coming." Samir nodded but stayed close to him. "I still feel like something bad will happen," he said softly. Zion placed his arm around the boy's shoulders. "As long as we're together, we'll be fine." But they didn't notice the man standing far behind them. A man in a black hoodie holding a phone, eyes locked on Zion and Samir. He spoke quietly into the phone. "I found them. They're at the station." 15 minutes later, a black car stopped quietly outside the station. A well-dressed man stepped out. It was Rehan, Zion's closest assistant. He rushed to Zion and hugged him. "Sir, thank God you're safe." Zion pointed at Samir. "This is Samir. He's my son." Rehan looked shocked, then smiled. "I'm happy for you, sir." Zion continued. "We need to leave. Now." The kidnappers may still be looking. Rehan nodded. The car is ready. They got in quickly. Samir sat between them, nervous but excited. As the car moved through the city, Zion felt a small peace return to his heart. For the first time in days, he was going home. Not alone, but with his son beside him. Samir looked out of the window. I never thought I'd be in a car like this, he whispered. Zion smiled. You'll have everything you deserve now, but peace didn't last long. Suddenly, a black van appeared behind their car. Then another, from the front. Rehan's eyes widened. They're following us. Zion turned around. Are you sure? They're blocking the road. This is a trap. The kidnappers had found them again. Rehan turned the steering wheel sharply and drove into a small alley. The van behind followed them. Samir held Zion's arm tightly. Dad, what do we do? Zion looked around. He saw a small construction site nearby. There, he shouted. We'll run into that building and hide. Rehan stopped the car. Go, sir. I'll try to stop them. Zion and Samir jumped out and ran toward the half-finished building. Behind them, the kidnappers shouted and chased. Bullets flew in the air. Samir screamed as one hit a pipe near them. Zion grabbed him and ran faster, heart pounding. He had to protect his son. He had to survive. Inside the building, it was dark and silent. They hid behind a wall, breathing heavily. Zion whispered, We'll wait here. Quiet. But they didn't know the kidnappers were already inside, looking for them. Meanwhile, Rehan called the police and sent Zion's location. He tried to block the road with the car, but the kidnappers hit him and drove past. Still, he kept trying, calling security forces, alerting every contact. He would not give up on Zion. Back inside, Samir suddenly pointed. Dad, look. One of the kidnappers was coming their way. Zion picked up a metal rod. Stay behind me. He waited quietly, ready to fight if needed. But then, police sirens filled the air. The kidnappers looked around in panic. Zion grabbed Samir's hand. Now, run to the exit. They ran downstairs. Police entered the building from all sides. Gunshots, shouts, confusion. Zion and Samir ducked behind a truck. One of the kidnappers saw them and raised a gun. But before he could shoot, a police officer tackled him to the ground. More police ran in, arresting the rest. Rehan reached them, bleeding slightly but smiling. Sir, it's over. Zion hugged him tightly. Thank you. Samir looked around, eyes wide. Is it really over? He asked. Zion smiled and held his son close. Yes, you're safe now. But in his heart, he knew this was only the beginning of a new life, one where he wouldn't be just a millionaire, but a father. The sun was rising. Light filled the sky as if a dark night had finally ended. Zion stood outside the police station, holding Samir's hand. The nightmare was over. The kidnappers had been caught. The police had confirmed everything. Zion was safe, and so was the boy who had risked everything to save him. Rehan stood nearby, his arm in a sling but smiling. Sir, the doctors said you and Samir are both okay, he said. Zion nodded. Thank you, Rehan. I don't know what I would have done without you. Samir looked up at Zion. So, what happens now? Zion turned to him, slowly knelt down, and looked into the boy's eyes. Now, you come home with me. No, more streets, no more fear. You're my son and I'll never leave you again. Tears filled Samir's eyes. Really? Zion hugged him tightly. Really, Samir, I lost your mother, but I won't lose you. Back at the mansion later that day, Zion's black car pulled up outside his large mansion. Samir stared through the window. His eyes widened. This is your house? He whispered. Zion smiled. No, this is our house now. They walked inside. The staff stood in silence, shocked to see Zion return, and with a small, dusty boy holding his hand. Zion spoke with confidence. This is my son. Treat him with the same respect you give me. Samir looked around, unsure where to step. Everything was big, shiny, and quiet. It didn't feel real. Zayan took him upstairs to a beautiful room filled with toys, books, and a soft bed. "This room, it's for you," Zayan said. Samir looked up. "I've never had my own bed before." Zayan sat beside him. "Now you have everything. A room, a bed, a family, and a father who loves you." A new beginning days passed. Samir began to smile more. He took baths, wore clean clothes, and ate warm food. He explored the garden, watched cartoons, and learned to read and write with a private tutor. But most importantly, he began to feel safe. Zayan spent more time at home. He canceled meetings and stayed with his son. They played games, watched movies, sat in the garden and talked. One evening, while watching the stars from the balcony, Samir said quietly, "Do you think Mama is watching us?" Zayan looked up at the sky and smiled sadly. "Yes, and I think she's proud of you. You saved me just like she once saved me from my old self." Samir leaned against his father. "I'm happy now." Zayan kissed his head. "So am I." The letter one morning, Zayan received a letter from the police. It was about Rehman, the man who helped them escape, who had stayed behind to protect them. Zayan opened it and read, "Rehman was injured, but he's recovering. He refused a reward. He only said, 'Tell Mr. Zayan to love that boy with all his heart. That's all the reward I want.'" Zayan smiled, eyes full of emotion. He folded the letter and looked at Samir. "One day you'll meet Uncle Raymond again." Samir nodded. "I want to thank him." Final scene months later, the mansion looked different. Laughter echoed in the halls. Samir ran through the garden, playing with a puppy Zayan had gifted him. Zayan watched from the window, smiling. He had once been a lonely millionaire with no one to come home to, but now he had something money could never buy. A family, as you are. The sun set, Samir ran back inside and hugged Zayan tightly. "I love you, Dad." Zayan hugged him back. "I love you too, my son. Always." And with that, a painful past was left behind, and a new beautiful story of father and son had truly begun.